All right. I want to first thank the Global Knock and Indiana Gigapop iLight for having me today. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you. I'm actually from Seattle, so it's really great to be somewhere where summer has arrived. Seattle is, trying to get to 60 right now and still raining, so it's really nice to see the sunshine. Thank you so much. I often get asked what the Quilt stands for, right? We live in this world of acronyms, so I often get asked what the Quilt stands for. And the Quilt doesn't stand for anything except as an acronym, but it stands for a really great national story of the fabric of the US regional networks. So this quote up here gives you some background of how the Quilt got its name. And while you're reading that, I am here to talk to you about the Quilt's VMware program, but before I do that, I'm going to give you a little bit more background on the Quilt. The Quilt was established in 2002 as a nonprofit corporation, so we're a 501c3. And we originally started with 16 founding members, Indiana Gigapop being one of those. And they have just been longtime supporters, longtime leaders in our Quilt community. So again, just very happy to be here with all of you. All right, here's our family photo. So we have 38 Quilt members, and we're very excited. In the last couple of weeks, we added 2 new Quilt members, the Sun Corridor, the R&E Network in Arizona, and Sea Light, the Research and Education Network in South Carolina. Here's a picture, a visual of what the fabric of regional networks looks like across the US. Oops, going back. And I want to give credit here to Steve Wallace and IU. Steve started collecting regional map information many years ago. And as a result of his foundational work, this map has evolved to what you see today. And over the course of that time, we've seen the regional networks continue to expand their networks. They invest in capacity, invest in additional network infrastructure that pushes its way out to different geographies within their regions to connect more of the universities and colleges that they serve, as well as the other institutions. So I mentioned the other institutions that regional networks serve. Our roots are in serving higher education, but across our Quilt, I think I must be standing on something as things advance here. As the regional networks have evolved across the decades, there are regional networks across our US that also serve additional community anchor institutions such as public libraries, public safety, K-12 schools, state, local and state government, nonprofit healthcare institutions. And so this is the visual that we like to use when we talk about the work of the regional networks collectively. You saw on that map all the different organizations and the work that they do in their geographies, either in the statewide or multi-statewide. But this gives you a sense of the types of organizations and institutions connected to all of those different regional networks. So following Greg, I'm not sure I'm going to do a live demo on this one, but I want to point out that each year the Quilt, the Quilt puts together, I'm going to move out from behind the desk, maybe I can slow that down, puts together a compilation of stories from our Quilt members, the work that they are enabling with their member institutions across the year. This year's Quilt Circle is a compilation of 21 of these stories from our Quilt members. And I encourage you to go online, either at this URL, or you can go to our Quilt website, thequilt.net, and you can click on this banner and get to the online version of this. There's a great article, a great story in there from Indiana Gigapop and iLight about the support that they provide to each of you, your member institutions, in developing proposals for the National Science Foundation Campus Cyber Infrastructure Program. So there's a great article in there about the successful proposal in many proposals here in the state, and the Quilt has had a chance to provide letters of support as part of that process for those grants that go in. So again, we're very pleased to be a part of that process. But please go check it out. There's power in each of those individual articles, but when you put them together into a compilation such as this, it really tells an incredible story about the work of Indiana Gigapop and the counterparts across the country that they're doing and what they're enabling with their member institutions. Look at that, I moved off the cables and it seems to have slowed down the slides. I wanted to share with you our Quilt strategic visions, give you a sense of the work that we do together within the Quilt with our membership. The first that we have is to promote the development, deployment, and operation of advanced cyber infrastructure for research and education. That's really just a critical and core component of the work that our regional networks do, and then the Quilt aims to support that work as well. For the last several years in the fall, the Quilt has held its fall member meeting in conjunction with the National Science Foundation's Campus Cyber Infrastructure and their cybersecurity PI workshop. I don't know if any of you have been out to that workshop, but it's really been a great event bringing the regional networks together with our national partners as well as these PIs to talk about cyber infrastructure and to share challenges and to share how to address those challenges. What's really benefited from these workshops is some of those awards that have been made under those programs as they develop in year 1, year 2, year 3, newer awards can come in and learn how those proposals and how those projects have evolved on the campus and really speed their learning and help avoid just lessons learned, hear about that and help some new ideas to foster and develop across the different campuses. Another one of our goals is to foster a healthy R&E community ecosystem, and this includes one of the roles that the Quilt plays in being a point of contact for national entities to reach to us so they can better understand who their contacts can be and what's happening in the different states. And our last vision is to be the forum for sharing, collaboration, and continuous learning. And the reason I mention this is it's this third vision where our Quilt VMware program fits in. And this continuous learning and really this collective advancement, how we work together, and this is one example of it, is with this VMware consortium contract. So this is where I'm going to move to next to talk about this program that's been in place for 2 years now. And one question you may have is why VMware? Well, it was a matter of timing when we decided to undertake a public RFP to go out to bid for VMware. When VMware was first getting started and first getting interested, I'm going to say 6 or 7 years ago, maybe a little bit longer, we had several Quilt members that talked with them early on and established individual end user license agreements with them. At the time, because we do this work together collectively as a community, we said, hey, VMware, we'd like to have you treat us as one enterprise. Let's get together and let's leverage our purchasing and you can benefit the entire research and education networking community. At the time, VMware wasn't set up to really understand and do that, so we had these individual state contracts. Just so happens, as it does, VMware ended up contacting us and saying, hey, we'd like to do a consortium contract at this point in time. I said, well, that's funny. We've been trying to do this with you for several years. And they said, we're just starting to get there. We're just starting to understand the benefits of these consortium contracts, and we'd like to work with you. And we said, well, let's see if there's a member interest. And much of what we do here in the Quilt is based on what our members are interested in doing and what their initiatives and priorities are, and how, as a community, we can help collectively support that and advance those priorities. We're a small organization. We've got 3 full-time employees, so I like to say that we are a member-powered and member-led organization. So to understand the interest also means to understand if we had Quilt members that would be able to commit some cycles of some of their staff to help process and work through this RFP process. Those states that had invested early on and had different end-user license agreements with VMware, several of those were coming up to expire, so the timing just happened to work out right, that they wanted a chance to have any licenses that were purchased under those agreements roll under a new agreement and renew under a different agreement. So we did have a core set of volunteers that came out of our Quilt membership, and we decided to undertake this process. So I'll talk a little bit about the elements of our program. We understand working with our Quilt members, their member institutions have very specific procurement requirements, and that public bid process is an important piece to support that. So we followed a public bid process to do this. The second piece of this is that we do this in a way where we let our Quilt members develop what we call their own authorized Quilt buyers list. With 38 different organizations, each of them have different models in the way that they engage their member institutions and provide services to them. And we want to make sure that we support that relationship and those relationships. So we ask our Quilt members to give us direction in terms of how we develop this authorized Quilt buyers list so we can communicate to the folks that we buy VMware through, who are the institutions that we're working with as part of this program. And it's not just the pricing that is a benefit in this consortium contract. You know, the Quilt members that come together to be part of this RFP process bring a lot of expertise, they bring a lot of procurement expertise, technical expertise, and we're able to leverage that across different organizations, which is really powerful in terms of what we can learn and share with one another as part of the process. We also have, through the program, we've got national program management. So as things escalate, and we've got a single liaison with our distribution partner for VMware that manages this day-to-day, full-time. So we've got this national relationship, which hopefully alleviates some of the administrative cycles that could happen if each of these schools or each of our regional networks had to go out and do this independently. So we'll talk a little bit more about this public bid process. VMware was able to point us to what they call their distribution partner model. Those corporations out there that have, you know, there's just a handful of corporations that have a distribution partner agreement for VMware. So through the public bid process, we received bids from 3 of those. The idea with the bid that we put out is to say, we want a certain amount of licenses, we want, you know, a certain % off of what we see in the marketplace. It needs to be better than what people can call up and get on their own, otherwise this is a lot of work to do, you know, for little gain. And then we want to really leverage the power of our collective national purchasing. So we put in what we call a tier process. So if we're collectively successful with the VMware distribution partner and we're helping our member institutions get a solution they need, as we grow purchases under the program, we want to see some benefit to that. So we put in some, you know, step up in terms of when we meet a certain threshold that there's additional benefit. And we also look for a distribution partner that has very good customer support, online tools, as well as in-person tools. We want to know that the kind of portals that they put together, the kind of information they're going to put together is going to be useful and is going to be a helpful resource to our Quilt members and their member institutions. Out of the process, we ended up selecting Carahsoft. How many of you are familiar with Carahsoft, if you've heard of them? All right, a few. So VMware isn't their only solution, but we went out specifically on a VMware bid, so we did end up selecting Carahsoft for the reasons that you see here. They're a very large organization. They do this type of consortium contract, what we felt very well in terms of the needs that we have for the research and education community. They were very supportive in terms of the types of resources they were going to dedicate to having a program manager to be able to talk to each of our Quilt members, talk to member institutions, really be a resource that can offload some of those initial conversations about interest. And they really have a great customer support portal and tool, which we spent a lot of time going through as part of the RFP process to understand what types of features and functionalities are available. So just to give you a sense, I mentioned on the slide before, what does a VMware look like? The original contract was for 17% off of list pricing. Our first threshold we've met in terms of $5 million of sales, so we added an additional % off of everything. We're now at 18% off of list price. We're actually very close to hitting our second tier, so we've had this program for 2 years. We're close to the $10 million mark for sales under this program, which moves us into a 2% off of the list price. So we expect by somewhere early Q3, we'll hit that $10 million mark and move into that additional discount realm. It's good on new subscriptions, it's good on renewals. So if you have either of those, please talk to Marianne and Caroline about using this program. I don't know if this comes across very well, but the details will be in the slides. Hopefully those will be posted up. I wanted to put contact information in as well. Carahsoft has been a really great partner in terms of providing resources for webinars, for in-person engagements, for any types of tools or details. If you want to do training for any of your engineers, they've got a huge set of resources to help meet your needs in terms of your interest in your buying. So Martin is our program manager at Carahsoft. Everybody has now come to know him by his first name. And he is a program manager. He's not a salesperson, so he sits in a separate group. He doesn't have the typical sales incentives and motivation. His motivation is to be a program manager here. And again, it really just helps facilitate the program to have someone like that. So Martin's a great first line outside of Caroline and Marianne, if you want to talk about this, and either Quilt staff, myself, or we have another Jennifer on staff. She's able to help too. So I'm going to pause there and ask specifically any questions regarding the Quilt as an organization. I focused here just on one element of the work that we do together under the VMware program, but happy to answer any questions or comments on the organization or the work that we do. Yeah.
Is that a public document?
Yes. So this map, if you are online and on our Quilt website, thequilt.net, if you go under resources, you can find different versions of this out there. Different versions when I mean in any type of format that you need it in, large scale, small scale. So you can pull it off and kind of dive deeper and expand in on it. It's tricky trying to visualize this fabric on a scale that showcases really the depth and breadth of the infrastructure managed by regional networks. As you go in a little bit, we also wanted to showcase the interconnects that happen among the regional networks in here. So you can see those with the white dots in some of the larger cities. I'm not sure if you can see it up here on the screen. If you get it on your own screen and you can dive in a little deeper, I call it the constellations, but you also see the intrastate infrastructure. So we've got the interstate infrastructure that's with the colored lines, and underlying that is the intrastate infrastructure. So you can see iLight up there with its infrastructure, and some of the other regional networks as you move across through there. So it's there's many layers to this, and again, trying to depict this at scale takes a little bit of doing to finesse that. But we really wanted to paint a picture of that depth and breadth of the infrastructure at the regional network level of our U.S. research and education fabric.
More about out there and how we
Yeah, the information I've shared with you at the collective level, as Dave points out, you talk about here at Remember Meeting the work that iLight and Indiana Gigapop does to support all of you and your member institutions, and now you can imagine this happening across the country, replicated over the states among the different regional networks. It's really a important national collaboration that happens within the Quilt. The amount of information sharing and exchange and being able to know who has expertise in certain areas, right? You can't staff the entire suite of expertise that you need to be successful as we think about a collective picture on supporting research and education. And so to be able to tap into some of these other resources that our colleagues and counterparts in other states is really vital.
And anyone can print this and use this.
Absolutely, it's open. You can use it, print it, include it in your slides if you're doing a presentation. Really encourage you to do that. So yes, it's open, and I'm always happy to answer additional questions about it, but you don't need to write and ask if you're able to use it. It's up on the public side of our website, and you're welcome to it. I know I was talking to Brian. Are you going to tell your story about your familiarity? Okay, I'll save that for you, but it's just interesting. Yeah, it's a great picture, and again, I'd like to credit IU and Steve Wallace for having the vision way back when, understanding we needed to start to collect this infrastructure information and to display it, to give this national picture of what happens with the regional networks. Very good, thanks, Dave. Other questions or comments? All right, well, thank you. I'm going to turn it over to Brian.
I like to be mobile, so clicker. All right, so you guys can hear me? Awesome. So it's kind of tough to be the last person because I know you guys are wanting to get out. You've been here a long time, so I'll try to make this energetic. How many people know what VMware does? Okay, good. I assume that was an easy question, right? How many people have heard of VMware's announcement of the Virtual Cloud Network? Oh, so a few of you. That's good, right? And that's really what I'm going to talk to you guys about today. Most people know that VMware is a virtualization company. We're a software company. We virtualize servers. We virtualize storage. But when you start talking about networking and security, and it was good for me to be here and listen to all the other speakers because they talked about, hacking, and they talked about the cloud. Well, a lot of people don't know that VMware actually does virtualize networking and security, and there's a reason why we're doing this. And it's the way things have been in the past needs to change because the way people are doing things in the future is changing, right? So we made this announcement in April called the Virtual Cloud Network. So my name's Brian Hara. I'm a systems engineer. I'm based in Kansas City. This is my first time in Indianapolis. It was pretty cool for me to get off the airplane, and I wondered if there would be an Indy car in the airport, and there is, and that was pretty cool. I am a car guy. I love cars, so yes, I may go run by the Speedway and check that out while I'm here, because I've never been here before. I've been at VMware now 3 years. Before that, I was a systems engineer at Cisco, and I was there about 15 years. And here's the story part. Before that, I was actually a network engineer at the University of Kansas Medical Center. So it was interesting when I was looking at Jen's slides. She had that second slide with all of the, like the iLight and all the other members. CANRAN's on there, and CANRAN was the consortium in Kansas that we worked with that provided the university networks, right? So University of Kansas Medical Center, part of the University of Kansas. We were part of CANRAN, and they provided our internet connection. Now, this is going to date me because this is back in the 90s. We were super excited back then when the medical center got connected at DS3 speeds, right? 45 megabit. That was smoking, right? Yeah, fast forward to today, and most households have way more than that, right? I'm fortunate because I live in Kansas City. I actually have Google Fiber to my house, right? So I have Gig E to the house. So yeah, I mean, think about that. That's kind of where we've come. And if you think about the way we built networks, we were connecting people to the data center, right? Back then, again, dating myself, we actually had a giant modem pool, because that's the way people got to the campus, right? So if I had remote users, they would actually dial into the medical center to access resources. Back then, the internet was more of a, I don't want to call it an entertainment thing, because it really wasn't that, but it was a collaboration tool. It was really more for email and universities actually collaborating. But fast forward to today, we live in a hyper-connected world, right? And I was preparing for this, I was thinking about how to describe that, and it really came down to this. It was super simple. I get up in the morning. I'm just describing my day. I got up this morning. I travel a ton, right? So I grab my phone. I checked in on the airlines, because anymore I don't check in until I actually have to fly. So checked in the morning. I checked in the airlines. I got my boarding pass. I went to the airport. I went through security. Showed them my boarding pass. While I was sitting in the waiting area, I checked into the hotel. I requested a digital key. I used my phone to basically board the airplane. While I was on the airplane, I got Wi-Fi. I basically did some work, did some email on the airplane. I landed. I pulled up the map program to figure out where this was. I plugged my phone into the car. The map program shows up on the entertainment system on the car. I basically listened to Pandora on my way here. Well, the point I'm trying to make is everything I do anymore revolves around my phone. I mean, I couldn't imagine living without my phone. Tomorrow, I'll go home, and when I go home, my house is a connected house. I basically pull up in front of my house, or as I'm pulling up in front of my house, I pass a geofence. And it basically, my phone will notify me and say, hey, do you want me to open the garage door? All I have to do is unlock my phone, the garage door opens. So, I mean, everything is connected, and it's just getting more and more connected. We're getting to that point of being in the Jetsons stage, right? And I like this slide because what it talks about is the data isn't always in our data centers, right? So it's saying now that 10% of the data is actually outside of our data centers. And for some people, it's more than that. And by the end of this year, they're saying that 94% of companies will start embracing the cloud. Now, when I talk to customers about that, some of my customers, because I support state and local governments and education, they'll say, yeah, I think that number's way high. And I'm like, well, some people don't know that they're embracing the cloud. And so I'll always ask a question, what do you guys use for email? Is it Gmail? Is it Office 365? Oh, yeah, we use Office 365. Where's the mail? It's in the cloud. I work for VMware. We use Salesforce.com. My paycheck comes from ADP. These are all cloud-based services, right? They're software as a service. There's nothing that resides in our data center. And if I think about everything I just described to you is part of my job, right? My trip here today was all the things I did. None of those things were services I access inside our data center. All of those services were someplace else, right? So that's important to know, because does it make sense for us to continue to build networks where we're connecting, and I probably just grabbed the wrong one, where we're connecting users to the data center. Yes, users still have to get to the data center, but does it make sense for us to connect the users to the data center just to have them go back out to the internet to get to the service they need? Or does it make more sense to connect the users or the things to where the applications and the data resides, and do so in a more efficient way? And that's really where this vision, this idea of the virtual cloud network came in. At the bottom is that bottom line, is that security and control. Everything this morning, listening, I forget the gentleman's name, but the hacker thing, that was awesome, because that is everyday life. That is, literally, the things you described is everything that I talk to customers about. Literally anybody can be a hacker. All you have to do is go out to the right website and pay enough money, and you can start attacking anybody or trying to break into something, right? So all of these things that we want to connect, we need to do so in a way that's secure and that we have control over, right? So traditional IT, again, what I was saying is everything we used to, back when I did the medical center, we bought T1 lines or some sort of circuit to connect remote offices, branch offices back to the data center. I had the giant modem pool to bring people into the data center. But again, if the data is starting to move outside of the data center, does it make sense for me to do that, or do I need a different way of connecting people and things to where the data resides? And I like the second presenter, and he talked about the cloud. And so it was interesting to me to see the number of hands that went up that said, hey, we use AWS, we use Azure, we use Google Cloud, right? So these are all places that I need to connect my users to. So the networking, but bottom line is the networking that we've done for the last 20 years needs to evolve, right? Physical constructs anchor things, right? Being a VMware person, anybody that's an administrator of VMware knows I can vMotion things. I can spin up VMs. I mean, that was one of the things that virtualizing the machine made simple. I can basically spin up new web servers, new app servers, new database servers in a matter of minutes. I can drag and drop a VM from one host to another host and do a vMotion that simple, right? It's right-click simple. But the problem is that the physical network underneath has to be there. I can't vMotion a VM from one place to another without changing its IP address. And if I change its IP address, what other things change, right? So I need a mechanism that virtualizes that construct and allows security to be associated with it so that as I move those things from place to place, from one data center to another data center, from the data center to the cloud, that all of that stuff goes with it and that it virtualizes the VMs so that I'm not constantly making changes to them, right? So that's the reason why the network has to evolve. It's not, we don't want it to be an anchor any longer. So this is what we want, right? This is what the virtual cloud network is providing. We want the virtual cloud network to provide the same attributes virtualization does, the public cloud does. We want a program, we want to be able to program it via an API. We want it to be data-centric. We want it to be application-focused. I mean, all of these attributes are things that we want the virtual network to provide. This is just me. This is another slide that I thought I hid, but it's basically regurgitating the same thing I just said. This is the slide that, so in essence, regardless of where the network is, so I'm not, obviously you still need a physical network, right? I mean, so all the work that we've done making physical networks very robust, that's important, right? Virtualization, creating VMs doesn't exist without a server. Virtual storage doesn't exist without storage. But virtualizing, being able to virtualize that construct allows me to be more mobile, right? It allows me to provide a worldwide network and allowed me to connect users to applications and data in a different way. So creating a cloud networking fabric that has intrinsic security built into it. And it's all delivered in software, right? It's really hard to do this if you're trying to deliver this in hardware because the hardware has to exist everywhere. So if I virtualize it and put it into software, I can move it around wherever I need it to be. If I want to run a workload in AWS, I run a workload in AWS. If I want to run a workload in Azure, I run a workload in Azure. The software allows me to move those things around anywhere I want it to be. So the thing about it is, it's great, Brian, you're up here in front of me telling me all these cool things that VMware can do, this virtual cloud network. You guys just announced it in April. Well, the reality is we didn't just announce it in April. The reality is it's something that we've been doing for a while. We just gave it a name in April, right? So it's really based on NSX. How many people have heard VMware Nsx? Okay, so yeah, a few of you. Well, you have to, everything you know about NSX, you need to change a little bit. So when we made this announcement about the virtual cloud network, we also changed NSX. So NSX used to be a product. It was a networking and security virtualization. Now it's a family, right? So we've done, in the last 6 months, we've acquired a number of companies. In the last 6 months, we've announced a number of products that we developed. NSX has been around for about 5 years. It's what allowed us to do networking and security virtualization within the data center. But now NSX is a family of products, right? And then, so let's talk about these things. So if you look about rethinking the network, what value do I get from, or getting value from the network, expanding the network, reinventing security, reinventing the wide area network, and make it all ready for the future. You can then equate that to network virtualization, microsegmentation, insights, automation, etc. And then you can then basically marry that to all the products that VMware has to offer. So we talk about the software-defined data center. We acquired Nicira, which became NSX. NSX is what allows you to do microsegmentation. Network Insight was a company we acquired, Arkin. That gives you visibility into the virtual space as well as the physical networking space. vRealize Automation, most of you guys probably know what that is, but it's an automation platform that allows you to automate the spinning up of VMs, but also now the network, the storage. NSXT is our multi-hypervisor version of NSX. App Defense. The discussion we had this morning around hacking, he said that we needed to change the way we do things, right? That basically signatures don't work. And the reason why, signatures, you're running after bad, right? You're chasing bad. And somebody has to define what bad is. And then he said, AI is going to fix that, right? So or AI, well, not that he said it was going to fix it, but it doesn't really fix it because AI is just giving you more information. It's processing things, and the more information you give AI, the better it can do. But at the end of the day, you can still get around it, right? So App Defense is a different way of looking at things. Instead of chasing bad, we start with what's good. We basically identify what the application is supposed to do, and we look at the behavior of the application, and that becomes its fingerprint. If the fingerprint changes, if somebody basically makes a change to the application, or tries to change a service, or tries to spin up a new service, or tries to augment a service, or all of these things, we start notifying people. We're not chasing bad. We start with known good, and so that's an idea of how we can change the way we do security, right? So that's App Defense. Everybody, how many people are using containers? Anybody? Couple? Okay. That's where everybody's going, right? Containers. And so at VMware, we recognize that. We recognize that we're not going to be the only hypervisor company, that there are other hypervisor companies out there. We also recognize that people are moving to containers. At the same time, you still need to be able to secure those, right? So PKS is a way that you can not only spin up containers, you can manage a container environment, but you can also provide security to that container environment. SD-WAN. We acquired a company called VeloCloud. And so now we're in the SD-WAN space. And the SD-WAN space, I support an 8-state area, but I travel outside my 8-state area. This happens to be one of those times I traveled outside my 8-state area. Another time I was down in Louisiana, and I was having a conversation with it was a state institution, and we asked how many remote sites they had. They had quite a few. And I said, well, how are those remote sites connected? And he goes, barbed wire. I mean, basically any type of connection we can get. So, SD-WAN, not only is it a way to allow you to operationalize remote sites. Nobody wants to have to, okay, another story. I'm a huge storyteller. When I was at the medical center, The medical center had a ton of remote clinics all over the state of Kansas. And so geography-wise, you know Kansas City is on the far east part of the state. And yet we had remote sites in Hayes, and I learned a few things as being a network person. If you make a change to a network or to a router, the first thing you should do before you make that change, reload in 5, right? People that laugh know exactly what that is, right? Reload in 5. I made a mistake one time, and I was making a change to a router in Hayes, Kansas, and I locked myself out of it and no longer could get to it. Well, I wasn't going to drive to Hayes, Kansas. We ended up reconfiguring a router and FedExing it to them and walking through somebody to swap that out. But I learned in reload in 5, if I make a mistake like that, the router would reload and it would go back to the configuration it had before. Well, the point of that whole story is nobody wants, remote management's hard. Nobody wants to have to send somebody to a remote site. So that's where this whole idea of SD-WAN's coming into play. SD-WAN allows you to, instead of shipping physical devices, now it's software. I'm doing routers in software. I'm doing firewalls in software. I'm doing networking functions in software, and I manage it through the cloud, and I can ship it out to a remote location, and it's a super simple. Like literally, if it is a box, or if you already have compute out there, you're just loading software, and you configure the software. Software gets configured from the cloud. If it happens to be a physical box, it's take the box out, and literally as a receptionist or somebody can basically just, hey, plug this into the plug this into the Ethernet, plug your laptop in, and pull down this email. And it basically configures itself, right? So it's that operationalizing this management of remote offices. But it's more than that. It's giving you a better experience. Remember I said the idea here is that we need to be able to connect users and things to where your data is. If I'm bringing all the users back to a central point, the data center, and yet they're turning around and going back out to the internet to get to AWS, to get to Gmail, to get to Google, to get to Microsoft and Office 365, that's probably not the most efficient path for them to take, right? So why not provide them an internet connection and allow them to go directly to that asset? And at the same time, we're providing you the ability to enhance that experience. We have gateways in all of these sites, where these big data centers are. So if they need to get to AWS, they need to get to Google, need to get to Microsoft, there's a gateway there, and we can enhance that connectivity. If they need to get back to your data center, we can enhance that as well, right? And all over low-cost connections. What if I could take a dedicated circuit and replace it with 2 low-cost connections and give you a better experience? That's what VeloCloud does. Public cloud, I heard them talk about public cloud earlier, and we have Nsx allows you to provide that networking and security virtualization layer and take it into an AWS, take it into an Azure, take it into, well, not today, but take it into IBM. It's the reason why Google's not up there, because that's not there yet, but it's being worked on. But these things are all in flight. And all this culminates into what we call the virtual cloud network, right? So it was a long-winded way of me saying, guess what? You can actually do these things today. This is not something that's like, hey, when am I going to be able to do this? You can do it today. And really, this is what it is. It's a layer. It's a virtualization layer that's providing networking and security virtualization. And these are the products that are doing it, right? The Nsx. So Nsx, if you guys knew what Nsx was, that has been that's been renamed to Nsx Data Center, right? So that's the version, that's the old Nsx software platform. Nsx Cloud is what allows you to get to AWS and Azure. App Defense, I explained App Defense already. I explained VeloCloud. Hybrid Connect is for those people that want to migrate from an old data center to a new data center. You don't need Nsx to do that, right? Hybrid Connect will allow you to do that migration, or if you want to go from a data center into the cloud, that's what Hybrid Connect will do. So it's this virtualization layer that's sitting on top of physical infrastructure. Wherever your applications live, wherever that data happens to reside, This is a virtualization layer that makes it easy to move things around or to connect people and things to where those applications and data are. And then I need a layer on top of that to manage it. It's great that I have this virtualization layer, but I got to give you some visibility into that. I need it to be something you can operationalize. And I want to automate it. At the end of the day, we all want more time to do things. So if I can help you automate those functions, then that gives you more time back in your day. So yeah, I'm going to skip this slide just because I pretty much talked about all of these things. Yeah. So again, this isn't something new. We've been doing it for a while. And so we have a number of customers that are doing it. We have 4,500 plus customers doing NSX. We have over 2,000 customers doing the NSX SD-WAN by VeloCloud. That's a mouthful. I think they should have came up with a smaller, shorter name. But yeah, even when I was at Cisco, I supported service providers. So I love this idea that even service providers are leveraging this technology. And the road to get there, not everybody does things the same way, right? So I explain a lot of things, whether it's VeloCloud or whether it's App Defense or whether it's NSX. It's like, well, different people have different priorities. But here's the thing. Regardless of which path you choose to take, the virtual cloud network, it provides you that flexibility that you can do any one of those things independently. And yet they additively, it becomes better the more things you do. But you can take whatever path you want to get there. So what is your path? Where do you see your organization going? Right? Once you know once you can define where your organization is going, then you can ask what's your next stop in that, on that networking map, and talk to us. Right? We're happy to come out and talk to you about all of these things in depth that I've talked about. Reach out to your VMware team. Reach out to whatever partners you work with. They'd be happy to set up time with us to talk more about this. And I'm going to leave you with this slide. NSX is kind of that, well, it's not kind of. It is that conduit that allows you to do multiple things, right? So if containers are in your environment, NSX helps you secure that and virtualize that. If you're using Workspace ONE, or really, doesn't have to be Workspace ONE, any kind of VDI environment. Once again, NSX can virtualize the networking and security functions and make that environment more secure. Internet of Things and branch, that I talked about that earlier when I talked about my story. And again, private clouds and public clouds. It's just that virtualization layer that lets you do lots of different things, regardless of what you want to do. So with that, any questions? Cool. Everybody wants beer. Well, thanks for letting me come out and talk to you guys a little bit about what VMware's doing.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Really appreciate it.